Hey, Blake T. Wild here, and welcome back to The Ultimate Era. That moment in time that we are currently experiencing, where I'm covering as many of the original Ultimate Marvel comics as I humanly can handle. And I've kind of given myself Stockholm Syndrome, because I'm actually enjoying it. And at least this time, this is one that both of us are going to enjoy greatly. Me especially, because I have to make the video about it. And it's not another Ultimate X-Men episode where only you get to experience my suffering. Released in 2005, written by Brian Michael Bendis, with art by Mark Bagley. This is Ultimate Spider-Man: Warriors. The book begins right at the tail end of the much-lauded summer vacation, according to my headcanon. Rolling to an end of those hot, heated months in New York City, the mob boss Silvermane watches a news report on the year-and-a-half-long, still ongoing legal case against Wilson Fisk. Silvermane is joined by a shadowy figure, and they watch earlier reports of the federal indictment against some of Fisk's top men. The news then notes that Wilson Fisk is still wanted by the authorities, but he's eluded arrest through various legal loopholes. Silvermane turns off the TiVo recording of the news and turns to the man in his office and notes that it's officially time to stop waiting and start acting against Fisk's crumbling empire. Silvermane suggests that now that the mystery man is back in town, and Silvermane gets up and says that the two should just forget their past squabbles and work on this together. And Hammerhead adjusts his coat and says that he likes everything about the plan except for one aspect. Then he grabs Silvermane by the head and snaps his neck. He's not coming back as a little RC car or a robot body in this universe. He's gone. A few weeks later, Midtown High School has once again begun. Gee, I bet this will be a nice, calm year, especially for incoming junior Peter Parker. Oh yeah, and he and MJ are still not really on speaking terms since they broke up several months ago. After school, Spider-Man swings through the city, lamenting that Spider-Man has not been the problem. Peter Parker has been the problem. Spider-Man has done everything. He saves the day. He helps people. He keeps people safe. Peter Parker, on the other hand, has liabilities. There's people that could get hurt because of him. He has to worry about school and all that other junk. So Peter determines that his civilian life isn't as important as his superhero life. In his penthouse, Kingpin speaks with his right-hand man, Mr. Dini, about the Silvermane situation. Dini says that all that they have found out since it happened was that his neck was snapped and he's dead. Kingpin chastises him for failing to find any information about the comings and goings of an expensive, high-rise apartment in the middle of New York City. Then he orders Electro to be brought in. Wait, what? Oh. Then he orders Elektra to be brought in. Dini tells him that they definitely don't need to bring a hired assassin in on this, especially since Wilson Fisk is still under federal investigation. But Fisk tells him again to get Elektra because he needs to make sure that his rivals know to be afraid of him. And that night at a warehouse at the docks, Fisk's men work on unloading a smuggling operation that is situated within TiVo boxes. What the fuck is with Bendis or Bagley's obsession with TiVo? Was it just because it was a new thing? Like, why is it brought up so much? Anyway, Hammerhead shows up with the Enforcers. Hammerhead explains that Fisk has abandoned them all, left them to fend for themselves, and then one of Fisk's guys named Reggie steps forward because he used to work alongside Hammerhead. Reggie says that he thought Hammerhead died over a year ago, and Hammerhead explains that he did, it sucked, and he decided to come back. And that is actually a reference to a couple of issues of Ultimate X-Men, where Hammerhead appeared very briefly. I don't remember if I covered these in, I think, Ultimate X-Men Volume 3. I might have brought it up, but I don't know if I went into detail. Hammerhead was a goon that was hired to, like, kill a guy and kidnap his daughter or something like that. Whatever. They kidnap this girl. Gambit comes across him out in the streets of New York, and he fights through the streets in the subway, I think, and whatever, to save this young girl. And he eventually catches up to him. And Gambit uses his powers to, like, charge kinetically Hammerhead's skull implants and fucking blows up part of his head. The Fisk goons, the Foons, hold Hammer at gunpoint as he explains that they are in desperate need of leadership. But the ringleader fires his handgun point blank, and Hammerhead falls to the floor. And he picks himself back up, pries the bullet out of his flesh, and orders the enforcers to do their goddamn job. Fancy Dan guns down the guy, and the other Foons watch on in silence. Hammerhead then tells them that they can either leave the city and never come back, or come with him. Several Foons run away into the night, but a good amount stay, and then Hammerhead orders the building to be destroyed. Not long after, Spider-Man sees an explosion down at the docks and a massive fire. He arrives to find a smoldering ruin of what was once a warehouse. He lands and calls out if anybody's trapped, hears nothing, then glances up at the roof and sees a silhouetted figure watching him. He swings up and finds nothing. Then he's struck in the back of the neck before he can react to his spider sense, and Moon Knight kicks his face, slams his head into the ground, and demands to know why Spider-Man destroyed that warehouse. Moon Knight strangles Spidey like a fucking lunatic as the warehouse continues to burn. Spidey tells him that he didn't do it, and then flings Moon Knight off of him. Moon Knight tosses his crescent darts, and Spidey easily dodges them, and he faces off against the white-clad Crusader as Elektra watches from a nearby rooftop, and she radios in what she's watching to Kingpin. Spidey escapes Moon Knight and then leaps off of the roof and swings away. The next day, the Daily Bugle runs "The Moon Man Cometh" article. Jonah is annoyed that they didn't go with his idea, "Moon Man terrorizes Big Apple." But Robbie points out that he didn't actually do anything. Ben Urich shows up and explains that he did some digging, and after going through quite the rabbit hole of dummy corporations and subsidiaries, he found that the warehouse was owned by Fisk Enterprises. Jonah and Ben celebrate the scoop when Peter walks in with some papers, and Jonah orders Ben to get on the article immediately. Then Peter notes that he's heard kids say that the guy is actually named Moon Knight. But Jonah thinks Moon Man is funnier and tells Peter to get out of his office. At his little cubicle, Peter gets a call from Aunt May demanding to know why he skipped school today. Peter slumps and tells her that he just didn't feel like going, and May tells him that they've talked about this. Peter lies and says that he actually just went to the library and then got lunch in town before going to the Bugle. And she asks if this is about MJ. Peter says it kind of is. She tells him that they'll talk about this when she gets home tonight, and then she says goodbye and hangs up the phone and worries that Peter is running away from his life, just like his father. Across the office, Ben Urich contacts Fisk Enterprises to speak to Mr. Fisk. Obviously, it doesn't go anywhere, but Peter does overhear him. Later that night, as the sun sets, Spidey climbs Fisk Tower. He reaches the helipad when the door opens and Elektra appears. She informs him that Mr. Fisk would like to speak with him and then invites him inside. Spidey is then led into Fisk's massive dining room, where he has delicious DeFalco Pizzeria pizza pie.
Oh, there he is. Have some pizza with me. Let's talk like men.
How did you know I was coming?
Oh, I installed cameras on the roof because of you. My men informed me that you were on your way up. I've been looking forward to an opportunity to talk in a less hostile environment. Here, sit, eat. I own the parlor. Bought it after I tasted the first slice, actually. It is the best in New York. And I know a lot of people claim that, but...
What do you want to talk about?
Why do you think they hate you?
Who, you?
People. The people that you risk your life for every day. Why do you think they hate you?
The costume? Oh, wait, no, I know. It's because I run a criminal empire, cloak it in charity work, and quote-unquote legitimate businesses, try to sell myself as something I'm not. Oh, no, wait, that's you.
No. Society hates you because they don't want your help. You remind them that they are weak-willed and unspecial. They don't want heroes. Because if there are special people and they aren't one of them, well, who wants that?
Thing is, that's not true, and if it is, I guess I don't care.
That's sweet. The difference between you and I is that you really are just a child. You benefit from the wide-eyed optimism of youth. I do envy you for that, somewhat. But like many of your decisions, it's just naive. And I do not envy that harsh, cold slap of reality when it will come your way soon enough.
What do you want from me, Willie?
This is a man called Hammerhead.
Oh yeah? Why do they call him that?
There really is no off switch. for your obnoxious machine, is there?
Kingpin goes on to explain that Hammerhead is the man who killed Silvermane a couple weeks ago and blew up his warehouse last night. He continues that Hammerhead is making a play for the territory that Fisk runs. And that's not good, because while Fisk is a bad guy, he knows how to control himself and appear in proper company, you know? He knows how to run things. Hammerhead, as we've seen, has extreme antisocial behaviors. He tells Spidey that Hammerhead is who he should be focusing his extracurricular costume activities on, not him, a guy who's pretty much under house arrest. Spidey's skeptical and proclaims that he refuses to even consider helping the Kingpin. But Kingpin continues and says that if Spider-Man really believes in protecting innocent people, he'll stop Hammerhead, and then he provides him his address. A few days later, Jesus Christ, Bendis, what is this? This is all to say that Peter is conflicted on what he should do with the information that Kingpin gave him. Because now, after he's had some time to actually ruminate on it and think it over, he actually doesn't know if Kingpin is right. And he's thinking he might be. Later that day at the police station, Captain Jean DeWolf meets Spider-Man on the rooftop, and he informs her about his meeting with the Kingpin, and that he could really use her advice about what to do. She tells him about Hammerhead and the rumor that he was a mutant, but there was also a rumor that he died. Spidey says he's not too sure about at least one of those things. She asks if Kingpin gave Spidey money to take care of Hammerhead, and Spidey gets offended at the idea as she paces around thinking. Then she tells him that, while she hates to say this, Kingpin is right. Spidey should go after Hammerhead, because the way the system has slowed to a crawl on Fisk, it'll be even harder to get Hammerhead unless he's caught red-handed. Spidey is in disbelief, and then she gets a call about a disturbance in Chinatown and has to leave. Cut to Chinatown. 7 minutes prior. Danny Rand meets with his old friend Shang-Chi after Danny was released from jail. Then they went and got lunch, and Shang caught Danny up on everything that he's missed since he got locked away for killing a man with his iron fist. And that's when Hammerhead and Chinatown's gangs arrived. The leader pointed out Shang-Chi is the guy causing problems and messing with their dope operations, so Hammerhead just shoots Shang-Chi in the chest. But Shang-Chi catches the bullet mid-air, and Hammerhead is tossed out of the shop window and offers 50 grand to whoever kills Shang-Chi. Danny and Chi fight throughout the restaurant as Spidey arrives outside and punches Hammerhead in his hammerhead. Spidey then screams in pain and thinks that he's broken his fucking hand. Hammerhead snatches him and aims a gun right at his temple. But before he can pull the trigger, Black Cat appears. What a menagerie of characters! Isn't this delightful? And meanwhile, at Midtown, the teacher does attendance and finds that Peter Parker is once again absent. And Mary Jane's worries about Peter get worse and worse. Anyway, Black Cat tells Hammerhead to knock off his bullshit, and Hammerhead tells her to piss off. And then he pulls the trigger, but the handgun explodes because Spidey webbed up the barrel and his hand. Hammerhead cries out in pain, and then he pulls a fucking grenade out of his coat and lobs it at Black Cat and Spidey. They leap out of the way as a car detonates from the explosion and land atop one another on a nearby rooftop. Spidey asks what the hell happened because he thought she died like a year ago. Then he gets up and races to the edge of the roof and finds a view of destruction and lack of Hammerhead. The cops arrive to the scene and then open fire on him until DeWolf shows up and tells him to knock that shit off and arrest the actual gang members that are still hanging around. And then she calls out an APB on Hammerhead. And just down the road, a cab driver named Stephen Grant films the scene, specifically Jean, and then hightails it out of there. Back on the roof, Black Cat can't keep herself down as she climbs all over Spidey, kissing him through the mask. And Spidey, no doubt, has a very obvious giveaway that he's into this. She begins to lift the mask when Spidey pushes her away and adjusts his leggings, probably turns 45 degrees away from her. Maybe he wears a cup. He might wear a cup. He probably wears a cup. But even then, that's not going to be comfortable. Anyway, he asks how the hell Felicia is still alive after Elektra fucking stabbed her through the chest and she fell off a roof. She adjusts her skin-tight latex suit and tells him that cats just have 9 lives. Then she comes on to him yet again, and Spidey exclaims that this is all too much, there's too much going on, too many people he needs to keep track of. It's like he's living in a comic book. She steps back and explains that she's been doing some recon on Hammerhead and is still looking for vengeance against Kingpin for killing her dad. And she's hoping she can use Hammerhead to her advantage. Spidey chastises her for for siding with him, but Felicia says she doesn't care what Hammerhead does, as long as Kingpin's dead in the ground in a very, very large hole. Then Spidey realizes it's getting late and that he has to get home, and swings away, and Felicia laments that he must be married. Unfortunately not. Peter arrives back at home before Aunt May does and goes over all the crazy shit that happened today in his head, especially the black cat stuff. Then he hears Aunt May pull up and quickly changes his clothes. He heads downstairs and greets her, and she tells him that he smells like perfume, dirt, and soot. Then she says to get a to-go menu that they have in the kitchen and figure out what he wants for dinner and then hit the shower. In the kitchen, Peter notices a message on their home phone from his principal about Peter skipping school yet again, and he quickly deletes it. Later, as the moon rises high in the night over Fisk Tower, Kingpin and Deanie watch a recap of the day's news regarding the attack in Chinatown. And one of those interviewed notes that the gangs used to be under control when Kingpin was in charge. But now there's no one keeping them in line. And Deanie freaks out and quickly apologizes for this very public embarrassment. Then Elektra stabs her sai through his chest, and Kingpin orders her to dispose of Deanie's body, kill Hammerhead, then Moon Knight, then Spider-Man. 2 weeks later at the Tokyo Club, a gang waits to meet with Hammerhead when Elektra kicks down the door in a brand new, somehow worse outfit and fucking brutalizes him. And meanwhile, we get a look into Bendis' idea for Moon Knight. We enter Mark Spector's mind to find Mark, Steven, and a little red-headed girl who's like his inner child, I guess. They argue over what they should do about the Kingpin Hammerhead situation. Mark is way too focused on Spider-Man, and Steven retorts that Spider-Man is just a meaningless obstacle in their crusade. And the two start arguing again until Red interrupts that he is here. And a massive Moon Knight appears and orders them all to be quiet because it's time to get to work. And in the real world, Mark Spector snaps out of it and comes to focus in the board meeting that he's in and excuses himself from the table and tells everybody to take a break for lunch. Then he heads to his office and opens a secret compartment containing the Moon Knight equipment. And at Midtown High School, Peter Parker eats his lunch alone, fantasizing about Black Cat. Then MJ walks up to him. She asks why they aren't friends anymore. Peter tells her that they are. And then she asks why he'd rather eat lunch alone and shut her out. And the fact that he's barely spoken a word to her since school started back up and their entire summer was pretty much radio silence doesn't make her feel like she's really his friend. Then she jokes that she almost didn't recognize him outside of the costume, and Peter tells her that he doesn't want to talk about that here. Without thinking, she asks if he's done being broken up with her, and Peter gets defensive and tells her that they both know why they cannot get back together. And there is actual danger in his life, and she'll be caught in it. And it'll never go away for as long as he's alive. He says that he didn't want to have this conversation again, especially not in detail, and especially not in the cafeteria. That's why he's been keeping himself away from her. MJ then begins to cry and tells Peter that she loves him, but he decided to wall himself away from everyone. Peter angrily tells her that one of their friends is dead because of him, and it could have just as easily been Mary. MJ says that she's not arguing his point, she just knows that they both love each other. And Peter remains silent, and MJ snaps that he's spending more time in the costume than he is as Peter Parker, and he cannot possibly keep going through life like this. Peter collects his things, marches off, and Liz comes up and comforts MJ. Later that day, after work at the Bugle, Spider-Man arrives to the address that Kingpin gave him. And he watches as a stretch Hummer pulls up and Hammerhead emerges with his bodyguards, and they begin to head inside. Then Black Cat covers his eyes and scares the hell out of him. She asks how she was able to sneak up on him, and Peter ignores the question, and then she explains that she was tracking down Hammerhead as well. And then she asks him not to get involved in this, for his own good. She tells him just to wait until Hammerhead has taken down Kingpin, and then act. But Spidey refuses, and Black Cat jokes that they're finally having their first fight. Then gunshots rattle through the neighborhood, and the two crash into the building's skylight to find Hammerhead, the Enforcers, Elektra, Moon Knight, Shang-Chi, Iron Fist, and a lot of goons, some dead, some alive.
Ah, come on, you guys never did this to Wilson Fisk.
Who's the good guys and who's the bad guys?
I'm not sure.
You crazies all here as a group, or you here with individual concerns?
Oh, well, I thought this was the line for the producers.
Alright, Elektra, right? How much Kingpin paying you?
More than you have.
Hey, I screw you over, I'm sure you'll find a great way to stab me for it later. Now, any of you other idiots want to rethink the intrusion into my personal life?
Excuse me, Mr. Hammerhead, sir. I'm Black Cat.
Oy vey.
I was actually here to get Spider-Man to stop going after you.
Yeah, why's that?
'Cause I want you to take down the Kingpin. In fact, I bet I want it even more than you do.
Alright, this is your audition.
Are you serious?
I'm sorry, sweetie, but it's just business.
And just like that, I turned the room around. So I once again ask if any of you idiots feel like running and screaming, 'cause now's the time.
I gotta get new friends. You people need a hobby and serious medication. You're all nuts! You know that? And this is coming from a guy in red and blue underwear. Give me that. Yeah, hi, can you put me through to Captain Jean DeWolf? It's urgent.
Oh, I got no patience for you.
Shh, I'm on the phone. I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Well, it's hard to say, but we kinda had a superpowered gang war thing going on, and can you just put me through to Captain Jean DeWolf, please? This is Spider-Man. Yeah, no, actually Spider-Man, yeah. Well, I'm kind of in a jam here, so... He's a fan. Look, thank you so much, but I just really need to get Captain Jean DeWolf on the line. Can you... Thank you. Oh, finally, somebody who likes me. As Spidey is waiting, Shang-Chi, who Spider-Man actually worked with very briefly in one of the Ultimate Marvel team-up issues, asks him to let him go because Spidey knows him, and he knows he's a good guy. But Spidey says that everyone just needs to stay webbed right now. Then Moon Knight gets very angry as Jean DeWolf finally picks up her phone and Spidey tells her to get here ASAP. And Elektra escapes and launches a sigh at him, followed by some ninja stars. Black Cat rips her way out with her claws and Moon Knight with his crescent darts. Elektra slams Spidey away and tries to kill him as Hammerhead slowly escapes the webbing and the police arrive outside. Hammerhead is clocked by Spidey and Moon Knight is fucking stabbed through the chest by Elektra. Spidey tackles her as Moon Knight collapses over. Hammerhead grabs him, rips off his mask, snaps a photo of his face on his cell phone. Then he mumbles through the webbing that he owns him now. Spider-Man gets his spider ass kicked and is launched out of the window onto a cruiser. Elektra works to free her new boss as Hammerhead tells her that their arrangement is not going to work because he needs to get the hell out of the country and he prepares to get rid of some witnesses. Then she stabs him through the chest too. Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. As Jean DeWolf shows up, Hammerhead is launched out of another window. Spidey webs him up to soften the landing, but I doubt it's gonna do much to help him. As Elektra tries to escape, she's clocked by Black Cat, then they have a brief fight until Elektra suddenly stops, tumbles to the floor, with a crescent dart lodged through the back of her skull. What is happening? This is like Tarantino's Spider-Man. As Wolf and the cops prepare to make their way upstairs, Elektra's body is launched out of the building, probably through a third window. Why does defenestration happen 3 times in a row in this book? Jean wonders what the fuck is going on up there, and demands a battering ram to take down the reinforced front door. Black Cat then works on freeing the others, and by the time Jean and the police arrive, everyone that's still active is gone. And finally, about an hour later, Spidey hangs out and watches the scene as bodies are carted away, and the police continue to investigate. Then Felicia appears behind him, scaring him once again. Really, Felicia? You know how lame that was? You just sided with him like that.
Well, I don't disagree.
Come on, you have so much going on for you. You're stunning, you're smart, you have some kind of powers. And this is what you think to do with it? To screw with the Kingpin to the point that you side with guys that are just as bad as him?
Kingpin killed my father. That just does something to you. That messes you up, but... You're right. I was wrong today, okay? I'll make it up to you.
Okay, you want to make it up to me? Stay away from me.
Hey, I just had a life-changing experience.
Good for you.
Do you really think I'm pretty?
I mean, well, yeah.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you did.
Are you still mad at me?
Yes.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do now?
Go home?
Can I go with you?
No.
Do you want me to kiss you?
A little bit?
Let's do it. Come on. Rachel, kiss me. I think about it all the time. What's under that mask? Who the mysterious man in my life really is? Come on, I want you to kiss me. Right now. Huh? I thought you were Judge.
And elsewhere in New York, someone is getting what they want. Kingpin speaks to someone in his penthouse that if Hammerhead survives, the feds will press charges against him. But it's highly unlikely because he got stabbed in the fucking heart and then plummeted out of a several-story building. Then he learns that Elektra was going to sell him out. Then she got stabbed through the back of the head and plunged out of a several-story building, so she's dead. And finally, he learns about the mystery man that is Moon Knight, who got stabbed through the chest, not the heart, but he's in a coma. He also has no fingerprints, and Kingpin's informant thinks that he might be ex-CIA. Kingpin sighs at how obnoxious these costume heroes are, and then notes that there's one bright side to all of this. Spider-Man now fully trusts Captain Jean DeWolf. And much later, Peter returns home to find Aunt May waiting for him. She reprimands him for skipping school yet again and tells him that she'll kick him out of her house if he does it again. Then she walks away. The end. Whew, wow, what a start to junior year, huh? This was rough. A headcanon of mine is that Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, his whole career takes place from freshman year of high school to sometime in his senior year of high school. I just personally think that works way better than whatever the established idea of it is, which I think is maybe a year, which is ridiculous and just does nothing to help the progression and the evolution of all of these characters that we were with for so long. But if it happens over the course of his whole high school career, then it's so much more impactful when the end does come than if it was like, oh, he was Spider-Man for a year. But Ultimate Spider-Man continues to be great. Although I would never really say that this is like one of the best Ultimate Spider-Man story arcs. It's too cluttered, I think is what it is. There's too many things happening, there's too many characters, too many new characters. Danny and Shang-Chi are just kind of there because Bendis likes them, same with Moon Knight, and he kind of wants to like set up a future story where Danny and Shang-Chi come back without having it just be like, oh, they're suddenly here in the Ultimate Universe now. There's just a lot that happened. A lot to digest. Unless you're Felicia, then you're wrenching it all up. And that is probably the most famous aspect of this entire story arc, is that scene. And can I just talk about how much I love Hammerhead in this? I really like Ultimate Hammerhead. I wish he had a bigger role to play. Bendis really should have retconned it that he somehow survived all of this. He's been in a coma for a while, and then he, like, comes back once Miles Morales becomes Spider-Man. That would be cool to see, or, you know, something at least, because this is it. This is the end of Hammerhead. They say he might live. I doubt it. I really like the straight-to-the-point psycho crime lord Hammerhead. He really does, throughout this story, feel like a threat, but a vastly different threat than Kingpin does as a crime lord. And of course, we also explore MJ and Peter's relationship, and it continues to be horribly depressing and sad as their breakup continues. Peter is just falling apart at this point. He's turning away from everyone in his life. He's pushed himself into this mess with the wrong reasons for the right idea, I think. But it's just going to be such a tumultuous year for Poor Peter Parker. That's for sure. And of course, let me know what you thought in the comments below. As always, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Smokey'sVideos, where you get early access to videos when available. You get to see all of my comics uploaded on there with my commentary and like sort of a behind-the-scenes making of comments on each page, as well as movie commentaries and more. Check out my Etsy shop, BlakeTWild.etsy.com, for physical copies of my comics. And also check out the Comic Shtick podcast, where comics are my shtick. And I Need Some Disney podcast, where myself and my Disney-obsessed wife sit down to discuss everything Disney, from the parks to the rides to the games and shows and movies. Everything Disney. And I will see you next time for more Ultimate Era! Bye!